obscure world of parking. We use it every day, but have we really capitalized on the intricacies of our industry? In this podcast, the Parking Network will go behind the scenes and talk to industry professionals about all things parking, from the horizon of evolving technology and even stories of the old days. We hope to encourage and inspire operators and property managers alike to look at parking through a new lens.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Our Parking Industry Podcast. I am Krista Olien, and I'm here with Clyde Wilson and Leigh Thomas. Today, we're going to be recapping our trip to the NPA 2025. It was in Indianapolis, lovingly called Indy, and we had a blast. I have always heard that NPA is like a family reunion, and just from the stories that Clyde's told and other people that we know in the industry, that NPA is just this big get together of all the friends in the industry, and that's really what it felt like when we were there. I've been to NPA in the past, but this time it just felt different. It was good. It was nice. It was good to see everybody and meet new people. We explored the expo floor, and there were a lot of new companies there, so that was exciting. And then there were also a lot of returning companies, which is also exciting to reconnect with people. Clyde, what was your favorite part?
My favorite part is always seeing my friends, because many of these people I don't get to see except for conventions. And so it's always, hands down, the best part to me is to get to see my friends. The other best part to me is to go on the exhibit floor. I've been going to these things for 40 years now, and it's always fun to walk on the exhibit floor and see who's there, who's got their booths up front, who has the big booths, who's in the booths, because a lot of those people I know, and a lot of them are new that have been brought in. And then when you walk around the periphery, you get to see all of the new people that have something new that they think the parking industry needs, and they're there, a lot of them for the very first time. So it's good to see that group of people out there thinking about what they may have that the parking industry may need. So I enjoy the interaction. There's a lot to enjoy there, but I enjoy the interaction and seeing old friends.
Yeah. Leigh, what was your favorite part?
Yeah, the exhibit floor was really fun. And like Clyde said, there's just a huge diversity of people on the floor. Friends that I've met recording podcasts, so it was fun to see their faces and recognize them and get caught up. And it was fun to see the vendors that we're familiar with and just maybe hear what's new or happening. But my favorite part on the expo floor is I noticed that the NPA provided these little signs for vendors who were there for the very first time. And it was kind of this big sign that said, first time NPA vendor. And so I personally had fun stopping at those booths and introducing myself and then saying, would you like to practice your speech on me? You know, like it's really nerve-wracking to be in a booth, which I learned at BOMA. So that was a fun thing. So I got to know a lot of the younger people in the industry and I got to hear about a lot of the new technology that's available. So that was kind of a fun way to spend a couple of afternoons for me.
Absolutely. We also had the pleasure of presenting at NPA, which was new for me and new for Leigh. It was our first time presenting. Clyde is an old novice, so he was there to kind of tug us along with him and show us the ropes on how to develop a good presentation, present the information well, and relay feedback that we get, which we were so pleased to have positive feedback, which was really exciting.
And we had a full house with standing room only.
I know, and our topic was auditing. Yes. And I wasn't sure what we would get in the room.
Yeah, that could go one of two ways. You can get positive feedback on auditing or negative feedback on auditing.
It was a good topic, and just so you guys know, these two guys did a great job. When it came their turn to speak, they stood up there, looked at the audience, and went right through it. And they got a lot of comments after it was over about how great they did. Presenting, we talked about this a little bit before going to Indy, and presenting before a bunch of peers is different. It's hard because everybody in the audience knows something about what you're presenting, and some of them may know a lot. So you're presenting to people that if you make a mistake, they'll know. And so it's hard for you to get up there and do some of these presentations, but they did a great job. Everybody was auditing. Not everybody in the audience understood the details behind auditing. So I put you at a little bit of an advantage. But it was an interesting topic. interesting audience. We had great questions and a lot of good comments later in the days following. We were on the very first day. We were Monday. And not only were we Monday at 4:00 in the afternoon when we were afraid everybody's ready to go home. But we managed to fill it with standing room only, and they enjoyed it. Stayed to the end.
Yeah, the topic felt really comfortable to me because, it's what we do every day. But we got to take auditing, and then we also got to expand on that it's not just this like checks and balances concept anymore. It's this digitization and personalization were our two key terms that we plugged, and taking the numbers and making them mean something to you and mean something to your customers. That was really kind of where our presentation led us whenever we were developing it. So that was fun to get to talk on what we really do every day. We also had some really great feedback on this podcast, which was exciting. We had people stop us and they would kind of talk about how they've listened and which episode was their favorite, and maybe we could be on the pod, getting excited about the potential and the future. So that was really exciting too.
The fact that we had such a full house, like Clyde said, on Monday at 4 p.m., while there were other things going on at the convention, to me, what that showed is the quality of the people in the parking industry. Like a lot of people went to Indy really looking for good information and lots of information and expert counsel. That was something that I really respected about the people who came out to hear us. And then I thought a lot about some advice that Clyde gave me a couple of years ago while we were doing the presentation. I forget what we were discussing or where we were discussing it, but I asked Clyde, like, how are you confident in this material? And Clyde just said something like, you exude confidence when you're sure in your heart that this is the right thing, that with the information we have today, this is the right path. And I thought about that a lot during the presentation. And I think that's how we presented so confidently. It's because the information that we have right now says that auditing matters and the auditing helps a facility be healthy. And so that really helped me have a positive energy through that whole presentation. And I had a blast with you too.
Well, it's such an interesting subject because first of all, I'll say, and I've never got myself straight on this. We're trying to get it, I've been trying to get away from it for 20 years using the word auditing and haven't succeeded yet. We're trying to call it financial reviews, which it really is. It's moved. When we started, it was done as an audit, but done as an audit to help people, not to get people. And it was hard. I noticed because your title's an auditor, it's hard to get people over that hump of thinking you're here to get me. And we're not. We're there to find what we can find because we get to step back and look. You've got to manage it every day. And the parking industry is so hard. No, we've talked about that many times, and we probably need to just do a whole podcast just on how difficult it is to manage a big operation in the parking business. There's so many details. So when there are that many details, there are that many things that can be missed a little bit. And when you're dealing with millions of dollars in cash, missing a little bit can be a lot. So it's a tough challenge, and that was how we were trying to present it, and that it has evolved. What we were auditing, financial reviewing 27 years ago and up to recently is not. You still look at it today, but the challenges of today weren't there 5 years ago. E-commerce started, actually, we did the very first transaction for e-commerce at the old company that we had created and sold, Focus Point Parking. We were the first transaction of an e-commerce, and that was in 2011. And it kind of limped along and grew and grew. COVID hit. It was a disaster for it, but they've done a great job in coming back. That now new way to handle money flow in the parking industry is starting to overwhelm us all. And it's a whole new way to audit. Totally more money missing, potentially, and a totally new way to look at all the different things that impact that e-commerce. So we had a fun time preparing, and the three of us were together on the phone, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 times trying to get ready for this. And then we had our presentation and then got good feedback afterwards. So it is what we do is something that's very important for the industry. It's important because of what we do, but it's also important because we always look at it as trying to help. We're never trying to do anything but find things that can help you. So, and it's fun to do this way. It's fun for me after all these years doing it with special people that are really good.
It really is fun to help. I was working on some data last week at one of our facilities, and this particular location has been in a little bit of not trouble, but it's gathered attention from ownership in the recent past, and their numbers are looking so good, and things are matching up, and the trends are trending upward. And I was just, sitting at my desk here in my office, like cheering, yay! Like we're seeing positive things happen, and it is really exciting to help. I do love the culture of our company.
It is more fun to help than it is to go through this audit gotcha stuff. And the founding of the Parking Network was because when I was an operator for 18 years, I knew as hard as I tried, I wasn't getting all the money in the bank. No, it didn't matter what you did. You had millions of dollars in nickels, dimes, and quarters you were responsible for. You had minimum wage employees out of the business. You had equipment that barely worked, if it worked at all. And so your odds were against you. So the starting of the Parking Network was my intention of getting me away from day-to-day operations to see if some of the things I'd learned, I might be able to get back a little bit and learn more. And the truth is, I think I learned more in the first few years of auditing than I did 18 years of being on. So it was good. It was good. But there were a lot about the NPA convention last week that I think we all enjoyed.
Yeah, we talk about how important it is to be on the island whenever you're in the parking industry. So be in the garage, be in the facility, be physically there, and the things you'll observe that you wouldn't know otherwise. But I think the flip side of that is that there's also things that if you are in the numbers, if you are in the data, you will see things that you won't see on the island either. And so you have to take both of those and meld them together and take that expertise and move it forward. Well, one person, that is almost an impossible job to do, right? The manager of the facility. And so it takes a partnership to be able to make both of those come in harmony together and find all of the potential that's in each facility. Never mind the fact that we have our eyes in multiple facilities across the country. And so we can bring that expertise of, well, they're doing this over there. I wonder what that would look like if we did it over here, and just kind of taking things that somebody that's assigned to one spot would never see. And so how can we help facilitate this growth and this betterment overall from this auditor's perspective?
Yes, financial reviewers.
Yes, financial and operational. It's both.
Both financial and operational. I'm not sure we'll ever get over using the word auditors.
I know,
but it's fun to try.
Maybe we should come up with an acronym for it that fits more what we do.
That's a good
throw
suggestion.
Periods between all of it.
That's a good suggestion. We just need to work on that one.
Yeah, we'll work on it. Because financial and operational review is a mouthful, so that's a lot. But it's more accurate to what we like to do. So
an F&O review.
Better than an FU review, I guess.
That's the audits of old.
Perfect. Which do you want? You want an F&O review or an FU review?
One you can afford and the other one you can't afford.
So look how much we've accomplished in this podcast.
It's a new name.
I know.
An F&O review.
It could stick. Well, after this presentation that we gave at the NPA, which again was so fun, Krista treated us to a fancy night out, and we went to a steakhouse in Indy and had so much fun. Was it Elmo's? St. Elmo's?
Yeah, we got lucky because I just pulled up the map and I was like, what do you eat in the Midwest? Like, what is Midwest cuisine? And I was like, probably steak. So let's find a steakhouse. And then the longer we were there, I kept hearing everyone recommending to go there. And it's like, well, that worked out because we went on our first day. And true true statement. That was some of the best steak I have ever had. So it was
It
delightful.
was very, very
St.
good.
Elmo's. Yeah. So if you're ever in Indy, St. Elmo's for sure.
Yes, and splurge on the shrimp cocktail because they make the cocktail sauce in-house and it is heavy on the horseradish, which
Oh,
I
gosh.
personally
Yes.
love.
Yes, it was.
And Clyde and Krista didn't care for it, so I got to eat most of it, which was really great.
It was good in portion.
There you go. Yeah, so that was a fun night out.
Absolutely. And the theme, I think it's only on its third ownership and it's been open since, decades and decades. Like it's one of the oldest privately owned restaurants in the United States. So that was really cool. It's a cool experience and the food was good.
So good. And when we were leaving, we were out on the street waiting for our Uber and we ran into some old friends of Clyde. And then we ran into some of the 40 under 40 awardees. And so got to swap LinkedIn stuff and get to know them just standing on the street waiting for our Uber. It was great. So fun.
Yeah, Indy is interesting. I've never been there before. And so going to Indianapolis, it was really neat the way it's kind of compact, like where we stayed, where the convention was. You could look out the window of your hotel room and there's a ballpark and the football stadium and a state park and the zoo and the river and all the things are just right there in the downtown and it's real consolidated, which was fun because then everybody from the convention, if you went anywhere, you would undoubtedly see somebody else and get to connect with them. And then we also, while we were there at BOMA, we met a potential customer. And while we were in Indianapolis, we were able to connect with him. And he is a legacy Indy resident. And so it was really fun to meet with him and talk with him. He took us around his office, showed us pictures of old buildings from the downtown area, and then we toured some of his properties. It was so cool to see that side of Indianapolis as well.
It was, especially with somebody that was as knowledgeable of him as he was of all the buildings. So we saw the special buildings and pictures on the wall, and then some of them were still standing out there that we got to see. So it was very good. He was a nice guy and interesting to chat with. Look at his property.
I think Indianapolis, like a lot of downtown areas, is experiencing a lot of the growth and kind of gentrification, if you will. And he is actually fighting some of those concepts to keep those historical buildings up and running and contributing back to what is downtown Indianapolis. So it was fun to hear those stories too.
Yes, I got to Indy and I was just really struck by how beautiful it was. I live in a very mountainous region. I live in Idaho. And so to go to Indianapolis, I was immediately struck with how flat it is. It is tremendously flat and so many trees. So that was my first impression. But after spending some time with our new client and just hearing his passion and his interest in the city, it evoked in me like some respect for these pioneering people who have made a beautiful city and made it an event hub of the nation, really. And I just really enjoyed our time with him. It was very, very cool to meet him and hear his stories.
It was. I've been to most cities in the country many, many times. Indy is one of those cities that I've really only been to. I've really only been downtown Indianapolis, I think, just that one time before this. And that was in and out, into a trip, 2-hour meeting, and back to the airport. So I really didn't know Indianapolis, and I was very impressed with the time that we spent there. And from a hotel room, you could see, like you were saying, all the things that were around it. And I was very impressed with Indianapolis and hope they can work hard at maintaining the core of Indianapolis and what it is and not let time change it too much.
Yeah.
Being a native of Nashville and seeing what's happening to Nashville, which is a very similar town to Indianapolis 20 years ago.
Leigh made it to speed walking. Tell us about that.
That's right.
I did make it to speed walking. So the NPA did a great job they produced an app that had all of the agenda and some descriptions of each event. And so I was perusing the app trying to plan my day. And I noticed that very early in the morning at sunrise, there was a speed walking event. Well, I do like to walk. And so I like things that are not complicated, and walking is generally not very complicated. So I knew this was my jam. So yeah, one of the mornings I got up early and I went to the meeting point and I met so many new people that I hadn't met at the convention yet. And we spent an hour walking downtown Indy, and it was a really fun way to see all the things that Krista mentioned earlier, like the zoo and the museums and the cool water features, and walk along the river. And I talked a lot of business on those walks and got to know some people that I wouldn't have run into otherwise. And then it was fun later in the day when I ran into Sarah and then I ran into Sam, and it was fun to know their names and know their story and have an opportunity to swap business cards. So that was kind of a new thing of convention life for me. Normally when I go to a convention, I just go to the presentations. But this time I tried to take advantage of some of the social events, and it was really beneficial. I'm glad I did it.
I like that. And I think a lot of conventions are starting to do that more, where they take the social events that maybe aren't just the, into the evening social events, and they try to expand on those and try to make a place for everybody to connect with people. So that's really innovative of NPA to have something like that, and so appropriate for Indy. The theme of that one just melded so perfectly. So talking about the other presentations, we also had the pleasure of sitting in on several other presentations that all, like, the quality of presentations at this event were very high. It was very high.
Yes.
They had a lot of, longtime parking professionals talking. There were some events of presentations that were about new things. We sat in on the one about the Olympics in LA, which was very interesting, and all the challenges that is bringing. And then we also sat in on some that were about just hurdles that are coming into parking and the presenter's perspective on those hurdles.
I thought it was very good. And some of those were presentations from people that I've listened to over the years. And I thought the most interesting thing was because I've listened to them for so many years, to see how they've evolved with the time, because their presentation really had evolved over the years to where we are today. And we're in so many of these topics at a very different place today than we were even just 10 years ago. It was, I think, the most interesting, of course, when you hear a presenter that you've heard many times before, is to see if they've evolved. And these really had. So I was really happy to see that. And they were great presentations. Both of them were very, very good. And they were subjects that we've talked about a lot internally. So it was very interesting to hear what they had to say. That adds to our knowledge of those particular subjects. So you're right. These were all good presentations.
They were. Some of them were so instructive, but I went into the convention looking for something to kind of pep me up, like to invigorate the why of why I do what I do. So I went to the WIP keynote.
Oh gosh, no, I have a challenge.
And then I went to the big keynote address looking for this, like, kind of this inspiration of why parking matters. But I'll tell you where I found the encouragement that I was personally looking for was at one of the presentations I went to was about hospitality in hospitals, specifically through the valet service. And the gentleman who gave that presentation had such a heart for using parking to be the best first step and the best last mile of a day, of an experience, that was where it was for me. I really appreciate his presentation. I appreciated his content. And for me, it was a good reminder of what parking can be. We really do provide the human experience. You can't do anything in America without a parking spot. Well, that's not true. Most things in America that you want to do, you need a parking spot. So that was a kind of a pep talk for me. I really enjoyed his presentation.
He did a great presentation. You could see the passion that he had about just, it's important that people that are my customers are all going to the hospital. So it's really important that I do the best I can do for them when they arrive at our valet. And you could just see the passion that he had for the importance of the job he was doing.
Yeah. And some of the things that he touched on, are not just hospital specific. They are what make the parking industry truly a customer service industry, and why we need to apply that to every aspect of what we do as an industry to try to recoup some of this integrity that we've lost over the years. I think we've kind of shifted and we've gotten focused on maybe technology is the big push, so the people side isn't as important, but we have to keep the balance and we have to keep that customer service mindset so that we serve our customers the best way possible.
Yeah, while we were there, we heard another story from someone else that had bad experience in their parking and then tried to call and get help, and they didn't get it. And I'm sure there are a lot of good stories out there. We're not hearing the good stories. We may only be hearing the bad ones. But this customer communication is something our industry has to really work on.
Yeah, and I think in that story you're referring to, I think the failure points, there were several, like from the beginning. They shouldn't have had a bad experience to begin with. So that's failure point number one. And then all along the way, as they tried to reconcile their experience and try to, get a more positive situation on their hands, it was just failure point after failure point.
And it
so
just went downhill from there.
Yeah. We can do better. So I don't know, do you guys have anything else you want to touch on that we didn't get to about NPA 2025?
Yes. I do have one more thing. Like mentioned earlier, we got so many compliments about our podcast. So listeners, thank you for listening. Thanks for being interested in the things that are happening in our offices. But I'm a little perturbed that we did not get any compliments about our newsletter, which, as much as I love our podcast, the newsletter is my favorite publication that we put out. So listeners, if you are not receiving our newsletter, you need it. Specifically, Clyde wrote quite a bit about what he's mentioned today about financial and operational reviews. What is it called now? F&O
reviews.
F&O reviews. Yeah. Okay. So you need to read his article. It will be released in October. So before October, you need to reach out to us, get subscribed to our newsletter, because next MPA, which is in Vegas, I want to hear compliments about our newsletter because you need it. Thank you. That is all on my list.
So do we need to now add to the newsletter the F&O review?
Maybe that should be a title.
Maybe we need a logo. We need a new logo.
Oh, you're right. We need a logo.
Marketing team, put that on your to-do list.
Yeah, we'll put them to work like we always do.
It's just a logo that's FO to FU.
No, FU to FO. The
FU
other
to
way.
FO. Right, the other way.
The transformation of the review.
What it used to be and what it is today.
Shiloh's mind is already turning, I can tell.
Gosh.
Well, this was fun. Our trip to NPA 2025 was excellent for multiple reasons. We got to explore Indy. We got to meet a local client that gave us a tour. We got to learn more about just what Indianapolis has to offer, while we also got to visit the convention and meet people old and new that we got to reconnect with and connect with for the first time. We got to see new technologies, which was exciting. We got to see innovations that old technologies are bringing back to the industry. And we just got to really, really listen in on some really great presentations that helped bolster our input and our thought-provoking questions that we ask the industry, because we like to ask those questions here. So we are looking forward to, kind of like Leigh mentioned, NPA 2026. It'll be the 75th anniversary and it's in Vegas. So we will be there and we hope you are too. Thanks, everybody.
To quote one of the greatest business minds of our time, Charles Munger, he said, "The best thing a human can do is help another human being know more." Here on our Parking Industry Podcast, we want to provide knowledge and resources. If you heard something that sparked your curiosity in today's episode, please reach out on our socials at TPN Consulting. You can find us on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. See you next time on Our Parking Industry.